Hey guys, welcome back to the BBR podcast. I am truly honored to have my guest in the apartment today, in the house, Ms. Kayla Coleman. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm good. Speak up just a little bit so we can hear you.
Oh, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. You came in, well, let's get to the conversation later, but what I know about you is you're a wedding photographer.
Mm-hmm.
You're new to Denver.
Yes.
Where are you from and how did you get into understanding, wow, it's loud in Denver today?
Getting catcalled from a balcony.
What?
Okay, so originally from Cleveland, Ohio. I grew up there up through college and then decided with the person that I was dating and eventually married to move to North Carolina so that he could get his master's at Duke. Stayed in North Carolina for 6-ish years. Did the whole eat, pray, love thing, moving to Asheville by myself post-divorce. Promptly had a home invasion while I was at home and decided that I would move back to Cleveland to be near family. Then I spent a year in Cleveland, and as much as it is home, it just didn't feel like that anymore. So I decided, because I travel so much for work, that it would be the time in life to try the digital nomad, living in a camper. So I put everything in storage, bought a camper, and spent about 10 months on the road.
And you fixed up this camper?
Nope.
No, it was
serendipitous, actually. The name of the camper is Kismet, because it was meant to be. I was at a wedding in the spring, I suppose, and the planner there, I was talking to her about what I was doing, and I was considering this nomadic lifestyle, and she's like, oh, well, there's this couple in the area who are also photographers and just traveled in a camper for months, and they're selling it so that they could get something bigger. So I was like, oh, all right. Connected with them, saw the camper and bought it, and I was instantly in love. Had a lot of hiccups getting started on the road. There were a lot of days that it did not feel like it was Kismet or like I should be doing that with my life, but I think those were the necessary, I guess, growing pains to the lifestyle. And it led me here.
Yeah. What did you learn about this nomad, or from this nomad life, ultimately deciding that it wasn't for you?
Well, it's not that it wasn't for me. I would like to say, I did it. I did that. I don't need to do it anymore full time. I would still love, mostly because I travel so much, it wouldn't make sense to be completely one place forever. But I learned that I am a lot more capable than I really had ever imagined. I was in that relationship for about 9 years with my husband, and in my mind the entire time he was the smart one. He was rational, he was analytic, I was the flighty, spontaneous, let's go do this kind of a thing, a very emotional thinker. And I didn't have another person there with me on the road. So when those I guess, obstacles and speed bumps, literally and figuratively, came up, I had to be both parts of the brain. I had to think rationally. I couldn't just scream, cry, and throw in the towel. I had to, really take a step back and tap into that part, which I really hadn't before because I hadn't needed to. So it was very, very important, I think, for my 30th year of life to learn those reasons.
That's a big leap.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah. How did you settle on Denver as the place that you wanted to call home for as long as it is that you're going to be here?
I get that question a lot. I have a running note in my phone of all the places that I went to that I was like, I could live here. Big draw for Denver was I have family in Boulder, so familiar faces. They were always kind of the Colorado cousins and Colorado family that we didn't see a lot of, but it's nice to reconnect. It's just a central location. It's easy to fly in and out of. It is in a part of the country that I really haven't spent a lot of time or explored, and even if I moved here and it's a bust, I can do anything for a year, so fine by me. I will at least have figured that out, but it's so beautiful, and the wedding scene's great. The wedding vendors around here are great. It's real community based, and I've just been lacking that. So
Good. So you feel like you have a support system here in town, professionally and personally?
Yeah, professionally, very much so. Great connections with planners, and they throw parties for all their photographer friends and their florists and caterers, and that was a great way to connect. And then personally, 5 of my former couples who I photographed their weddings live in the Denver area. as well as my cousins and a couple just one-off friends who moved here. Because as soon as I decided to move here and I was like, oh, I'm moving to Denver, everybody I told, they're like, oh my gosh, me too. Because everybody's moving here.
Serendipitous once again.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And along the way, you have this partner in crime, your co-pilot, Sadie.
I do. Yeah.
We're fans of dogs around here. We're dog people.
She has her own Instagram. It's called The Daily Sade, S-A-D-E. And it has maybe 100 followers. It's not great, but it's a lot of puppy videos and photos of her. And she really, I'm not positive that I could have made it through the trip without her. So she's a good therapy dog.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you also have probably 7 Instagram accounts. Just kidding. That's an exaggeration.
No, maybe I think 5.
So when we met, you were working on 50 shoots in 50 states.
Uh-huh.
What's left on the list of states to do a wedding shoot or a photo shoot in?
There are still 16 states left, and they are either the ones that I've been neglecting for just lack of interest or lack of opportunity. This off season, I guess, I was working through it, but wedding photography usually is sweet spot from spring to fall, and then you have a couple months there where you're not totally booked. So I decided to travel the majority in that time, and there were a lot of places that had to be crossed off the list. Idaho, Montana, even Lake Tahoe, like they were covered in snow and there was no way around it. So there's some out west that I haven't hit yet that I'm really excited to. So, and Denver's good for that because it's, I mean, I think Moab's like a 5-hour, 6-hour drive, something like it's pretty close. So
I love Moab.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I haven't been. It's on the list.
I'll see if I can find somebody from our listeners who are getting married in Moab.
I am positive you can. Know everybody.
Well, it's one of my natural strengths is to be a connector. And
that makes sense.
The reason why I brought you on this week is because we're in the middle of a 5-week series on the Enneagram personality type 2, the helper. And you're a helper.
Yes, sir.
When did you discover the Enneagram, and what was your first impression of discovering your personality type?
It had to have been within the last year when it started becoming more of a popular thing. And it was a lot of social media that kind of led me there because I started noticing people posting type 4 and type 9 and things that related to them, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that describes them to a T. I was like, I wonder what type I am. So I just went online, did one of the free tests. I've done a couple tests just to, and honestly, once you're a helper, you're in that. There's no strain really. So of all the tests that I've done, I'm a 2 wing 3. And as soon as I discovered it, I felt so understood because it's hard to explain being empathetic to a fault and being a doormat, and those are really negative sounding words, but I think a lot of 2s will resonate with that. You people please so much that you neglect yourself, and that's what got me to this point in life. That's what got me to a failed marriage. That is what really my life has been designed around. So I think it's just harnessing the power of understanding being a 2 and understanding, workarounds and setting boundaries and kind of working through those faults, I guess it's not the greatest word, but
with the Enneagram, we're discovering the light and the shadow of every personality type. So how did it feel discovering the shadowy part of your existence, your being?
It was a little scary. It's difficult being a Cancer and an Enneagram 2. I've been big into the horoscope thing for a few years, and Cancers, I'd like to meet a Cancer who's not an Enneagram 2, actually.
I'm a Cancer.
Well, nice to meet you. You're not an Enneagram 2?
I'm not,
that's right. I forgot you were
we were talking about that when we had coffee. The 12th.
Shit. Close. Shoot, sorry.
No, it's all good.
They've never heard that word before. But I think that a lot of the Cancer too, like it just kind of parallels a lot. I had a tough time though at first because as a 2, if somebody says anything bad about you, you just feel it.
Oh God, it crushes you, doesn't it?
Oh my word. And I've been very fortunate in my life to not have anyone directly, I've not really burned any bridges relationship-wise or anything, but it was just one of those, you shine a light on it and then you can better understand it and you can, I guess, tackle it. But some of those things are just innate personality things. Like it says that Enneagram 2s can be, I think it's manipulative, and I know that I've sweet talked my way around some things before, and I'm like, oh shit, like, oh, Sorry again.
No, this is absolutely real. That like when we're facing that shadowy part of ourselves, that's when people stop.
Yeah.
So why didn't you stop with the self-awareness and the discovery when you found those shadowy parts?
I think because I just hid them for so long and I was so miserable in life, and I would rather know all the information and make a decision.
Face it?
Yeah. I'd rather do that than just keep hiding, and it's a lonely, dark, scary place to be, especially if you are good at sugarcoating and, you know, good at putting a smile on and nobody really understands what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm. So if you've discovered that you're a doormat and a people pleaser, which is like empathetic to a fault, is what you said,
yeah.
And you start to set healthy boundaries, how does life improve when you set those boundaries?
Significantly. It's been more so in the last couple months that I've really started to notice, and I'm not sure if it comes with age either. I know as soon as I turned 30, I stopped caring as much what people thought, but
you don't have time for that.
No. And this is gonna sound so negative, but like, we're all gonna die someday. Like, I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste another second people pleasing and saying yes to things that don't fit me and don't fit my life anymore. And I still find myself erring on the side of that, but journaling has helped a lot. I've tried meditating, and I think I could really, really love it if I leaned into it. I'm just not great at sitting in silence and peace. But honestly, I think once the dust settles from this move, it will have turned out to be a great decision, because it is a good place to really, you know, be with yourself in nature and be with yourself. There's a whole spiritual community, and there are people that are just willing to kind of coach you along the way, here more than other places that I've found. So.
Mm-hmm. And as you come into the less busy season of your profession, now you might have a little extra time to breathe and to just kind of sit.
That is the goal.
Yeah, here's hoping, right?
There were a couple different options to move here date-wise, and this was the absolute earliest, because I have 3 weeks of no travel for the first time in, I honestly can't tell you how long, probably over a year. And so I have 3 weeks where I can just be here. I finally set up my bed yesterday after a week of living here. I'm starting to feel, you know, coming home to a house isn't just coming home to a friend's house who you're crashing with, or, you know, it's just starting to, thank goodness, develop into something steady and something constant. And that immediately has helped my mental health just chill for a minute, so.
It doesn't help that you know a challenger here in town, and you arrive in town. I'm like, hey, Kayla's finally in town. Let me introduce you to 75 people, and let me get you on the podcast, and let's go to coffee.
Yep.
And will you help me get my rental car? And
I offer that.
Because I know what healthy boundaries for a two mean to you.
Yeah.
And that's what I promise to do for my friends. You know, I know a lot of twos.
Well, a lot of twos need a little bit of a tipping. They need to be pushed. And not pushed in a pushover kind of way, but pushed in a, I guess my only example of this is like when I was married and I would have this grand idea, what I thought was a grand idea. Can't even think of an example because there were so many. But he would just ask a question, just a simple, why do you want to do that? And I would immediately retreat and crawl back into my shell and be like, oh my gosh, that's a dumb idea, never mind, like forget I said it. And so that was my life for a lot of years, was I would come up with these things, people would ask one simple question, and I would think that because they asked a question or challenged it, that they thought it was a bad idea. Mm-hmm. When in all reality, they just wanted to make sure I thought it through, or that they had all the information, or that all the facts were on the table, and it wasn't, you know, it was almost a way of helping it become more real, and I would just panic.
Yeah.
So it's good to have someone like you, because not a lot of people I would wake up and be somewhere at 7:15 in the morning
once a week,
a pretty weekly, it sounds like it will be, basis. That's new for me. I'm the opposite of a morning person. So. And
to help you out, there's like, hey, in your email inbox, there's a connection to Josh who's going to substitute for you, or whatever it needs be, you know. So, I hear what you're saying about like having all these great ideas, because that's a little bit of the achiever in you, that 2-wing 3, where an achiever really strives for accomplishment and task-oriented. which is a great combination for a helper because it gives you drive. And it does give you those ideas, but then when you present those ideas and you're challenged a little bit, being out of that marriage, how have you grown into your own ideas? Seeing them through.
Well, I've learned that not all of my ideas are great. Like, some of them really do suck, and somebody should be there to question them. But at the same point, it's kind of circling back to using the analytical part of my brain, something that I'm not accustomed to, something that I've managed to get this far in life by being almost solely emotional. But it's been one of those things that there were really tough days, and honestly, had I met my ex-husband, my husband, I don't like the ex, we call him a husband, had I met him now, it would be a completely different story. But because I didn't get into therapy and I didn't get on medication, and because I just ignored my own compass for so long in that marriage, the damage was done. But I learned so much from him, and I learned to be more like him, and I would actually be interested to see what kind of Enneagram he's got going on. I'll ask him. He probably knows.
Yeah, you guys are still in contact, right?
Yeah, he's great. He's out in California with our dog. That was honestly a really tough part. Was, I left the marriage, so it was you can have our dog, you can have everything. I'm just gonna go. He got our Friendsgiving, which was tough. Every Thanksgiving we had our thing with our friends, but yeah, he's doing well, and I didn't ruin his life completely, from what I can tell, which was, I think, the toughest part of leaving a marriage was the shame that came along with it. And when you're a helper and hurting somebody's feelings or altering them in any negative way ruins you probably more than it ruins them in a lot of ways. It was really difficult to cope with that for a while. So I feel like that has lifted, and I feel a lot lighter these days. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, you used a word in there, shame, that's really big with a helper personality type.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
And for an 8, I can only speak to it from my perspective, that letting go of the little things, letting go of past relationships is a really good stepping stone for us.
Yeah.
For a helper, setting boundaries in order to let go and to deal with the shame is also a really strong step forward. Yeah. Would you agree?
I completely agree with that. It's kind of figuring out what those boundaries are and saying them before, being proactive about them instead of reactive. Because there's been a lot of boundaries lately that I didn't realize there were boundaries until somebody pushed them. And then I was like, oh, I don't like that. I'd like to avoid this in the future by saying this first, or by doing this first, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So you're new to town.
New to town.
What's it like to date when you're new to town? Because I didn't mention this earlier. We met on Hinge.
Yep.
But things didn't work out because you were not living here.
I wasn't living here, although I had this grandiose idea, because I was in a 9-year relationship that started in college. College is totally different. But then I dated long distance for a year and loved the long distance. It just wasn't the right relationship. So in my mind, I hopped on Hinge because it's the only dating profile, or the only dating app that you can scam on dudes here while you are across the country. So I was like, all right, I
didn't know that.
Yeah, you don't have to be in the neighborhood.
Okay.
You can just say that you can just set your location. So I was sitting in Raleigh, and I was like, I'm just gonna do this, because worst case, I was here every couple weeks for a couple months. And I was like, maybe I'll convince someone to fall in love with me. We'll just date long distance. And then when I move here, I can just slide right into a relationship. It'll be great. And I went on a lot of one-off dates in that downtime, a lot of them. And it was tough because the only ones that I truly wanted to stick didn't stick. And the ones that I didn't want to stick were the ones that kept coming around. Mm-hmm. It's like, how is this so complicated? But yeah, I've been here about a week, and I've been on, we'll call it a handful of dates. There was one repeat customer last week. God, that sounds so horror-like. Sorry. There was one...
No shame whatsoever about it.
Thank you. Uh-huh. There was one second date that I had out of the last week. But even then, yesterday, I texted him and I said, hey, I completely understand. I basically rejected myself so that he wouldn't do it first. And I said, I understand if you would like to be dating somebody who is more active and can do these 14ers with you, and he's moving to Vail and who lives closer to Vail. So I like listed all these reasons that I imagined that he would be rejecting me. And it was very proactive, but his response was pleasantly surprising. Wow, that's a hard word. Basically he said, he's like, I'm not gonna think that I have a type anymore. He's like, I enjoy hanging out with you. I'm not gonna say no for any of these reasons. He's like, I don't understand what I want if I'm feeling a certain way. I'm just not gonna like box anything out, basically. Wow, that was a lot of words. He said it way more eloquently than that. But I was sitting there and I was like, this is a very adult conversation. And there was no, we even texted a little bit this morning, like it's fine, it's a good friendship first kind of a thing, I think. But he didn't kiss me either of the dates, and I was like, oh no. And coming from you, who said you don't kiss on first dates, mm-hmm. It is baffling to somebody like me who's like really asking for it and doesn't get it. So.
Was this the concert?
Yeah.
This was a concert?
This was, yep.
Okay.
We went to a concert and then we went out, we just went out for a drink, dinner and drinks, and then we walked past a shitty karaoke bar and I made him stop in there and watch bad karaoke with me for like an hour and a half.
Is that a hell of a good time? I
love it, but he was being such a good sport and I was like, maybe he's not my person if he's not hardcore into this too. But he was a great sport and I was like, it was a good.
Well, if you're going to understand that he's active in a lifestyle and does 14ers, but he can also reciprocate and say that you love karaoke and he'll join you for it, but no, I wouldn't participate in karaoke.
I didn't participate.
You just sit there and watch.
I just love watching it. It's great people watching.
So I'm going to ask a couple of follow-up questions based on a few things that you said.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries, say like the first week that you're here in town and you have 5 dates.
Mm-hmm.
How does that sit with your boundaries?
Oh, not very. I honestly, when I moved here a week ago, I'm kind of seasoned now, my whole goal was to like relax.
Practically a native if you've been here for a week.
My goal was to relax for a little bit, and I really didn't have a chance to. And it was, for some reason, I think it's that mentality of I've been traveling and I've only been places for a few days at a time. So I pack my schedule into those few days. And so it was honestly, I think there was a subconscious part of me that was like, this isn't permanent, this is not, you don't get to live here, you don't get to stay here, do everything now. So that mixed with, honestly, dating's a good way to get to know the neighborhoods. It's a great way to go out and like have some personal contact, because I know myself and I know what a homebody and a hermit I can be, to the point where I took my house with me for 10 months so that I could just go sleep in a parking lot if I was burnt out. But I just did not want to start living here and immediately fall back into what I was doing when I lived in another home base, which mm-hmm. was isolating. Mm-hmm. And so I went hard the opposite direction. But it was okay, honestly. Everybody who lives here seems to travel a lot too. So one of the dates, he was like, oh, I'm going out of town like Thursday to Thursday. And I was like, cool, well, let's go on a date tonight then. Like, let's do it. But it was overwhelming. It probably wasn't the wisest decision, but it also, I don't regret it.
Yeah, sure, because you're single and you have no expectations, no strings attached whatsoever.
Yeah, which is tough because since I was 14 until 30, I was all strings attached all the time.
Serial monogamous?
Serial monogamous, I've used that so many times. And I think the longest I had been single in there was maybe 2 months, from 14 to 30. And now, I've been single...
Year or two, is that right?
No. Almost well, it depends. It depends on the timeline because it started getting really rocky and then it took a while to break up. Mm-hmm. 2s have a hard time breaking up, I would imagine.
Sure, letting go and boundaries.
Anyone else can relate to this, but like it's like hunting with a butter knife. You're just hacking away at it and you're like apologizing and crying and it's bad. But yeah, I would say probably about 11 months I've been single. Yeah.
Good. That's a good amount of time, and that's something that I always recommend for people to do is take time for themselves.
My goal was a year. So.
Well, you're still single and you're still not attached and you're still not committed. So stick it out. Learn your neighborhood. Like when we went to coffee after you first moved here, I think you'd been here a day or two. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a date, we knew that. Mm-hmm. But I got you to come to Hooked on Colfax because that wasn't your norm.
I know. I threw out the only place that I knew, and you were like, but what about this? And I was like, oh, okay. Because it's a comfort zone thing. It really is. For as exciting and spontaneous as my life sounds on the outside, I am still a creature of, if I know something's good, I'll just keep doing that. I step out of bounds sometimes, but typically if I find something I like, I'll stick with it. Which is how relationships work.
Yeah, let me ask you about that. Is when you stick to the norm, like your favorite coffee shop that you love to get work done at. I mean, Thump is great in your neighborhood, and we're not far apart. Pablo's is also good, but you stick to the norm so that you can have emotional energy elsewhere. Does that resonate with you?
As in, it's another safe place?
No, I'm saying like, because you have the routine of going to the same coffee shop, you can actually invest deeper, say in like the actual business, or like when you show up to a wedding, you can invest more emotionally.
I think that that's fair. I haven't found that place yet, and I've not really had that place.
How about your home? Like, you're designing this home to be your space.
That's the whole
I've seen pictures,
goal.
I've seen videos.
Oh yeah, it's the whole goal. But right now, because it is, I just decided to set up my bed yesterday, and there are still things everywhere. I can't rest. I can't think of anything else aside from the clutter or the mess. So I've had to go to these coffee shops. It's almost a force to go to these coffee shops. But I understand what you're saying. That is something I crave. That kind of, I guess, foundation, whether or not it's home or another safe, comfortable place. That I can actually sit and focus, and the part of my brain that's like, okay, now it's time to work. Now it's time to, transition from stressing to comfortably working. I'm hoping to find that. I think I will. There's a couple candidates, but like I said, I was out to coffee, or I was not out to coffee. I was working in a coffee shop, and this guy wrote me that note the other day and left his name and number and said nice things. And now I'm like, well, I can't go back to that coffee shop because then I can text that guy, which is terrible. I think the boundary part of me should text him and be like, thank you so much for the compliment. I'm not interested, but hopefully maybe I'll see you there and we can connect as friends.
So why do you think he didn't come up to you in person? Did he say that in a note?
No, he walked past a bunch and we made eye contact and smiled a little bit, but he kept walking past and I was like, I know what's up.
Here it comes.
And other twos might resonate with this. This is going to sound ridiculous. I read it in a meme a few weeks ago, which is the Enneagram's way of communicating.
Their love language is memes.
Apparently. But that's how I've learned so much about being an Enneagram too, is the memes. And one of the little bubbles said, people accidentally fall in love with you. You just have, there's something, if you connect, I get really afraid to make eye contact with people sometimes because I'm like, no. I just don't. It is the weirdest thing, and it sounds very cocky, and it's not meant to be. It's just more so I don't know if we attract people that need, I don't know, we're usually fixers as well, or people, we have resting tell me your life story face. People gravitate towards us, and they just want to tell us everything, and then they think that that's a level of intimacy. And to us, it's just another day. It's not, and I wouldn't think twice on it, but that eye contact with him apparently made him feel strongly enough to write a note. To me, it was just, oh, hi, it was just a nice, every time he passed, I was like, cool, that's just another person having a day. So it was just, it's crazy how the interpretations can, I can't make eye contact with one of those mall kiosk people because I'll buy whatever they're selling. I get sucked in, and then they start talking, and then I feel bad if I don't buy. It's all...
Well, you're not the only one.
It's
but
terrible.
The helper has this innate ability to understand a perceived need.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what you're talking about when the energy attracts somebody else. And you said it yourself, that they need something. And we've had a former guest on. She's actually, in my guesstimation, a challenger. But when a challenger is really healthy, they go towards a 2. So we can, at our best, we can hold space for somebody else's need.
I love that phrase, hold space for somebody.
Yep. And the helper does it subconsciously and innately, and they're almost welcoming of other people's perceived needs. So it's almost like this gravitational pull.
It makes me feel so bad that there are so many nice things to be said about that, right? That, it doesn't make me feel badly, I guess, but I agree with everything you're saying. But part of me is it sounds cocky to agree with that or something. I'm not sure.
It is a tremendous gift that the helper personality type has. And not so much like shying away from it or steering away from it by not making eye contact, but that's when boundaries come in. Yeah. It's simply like the mall kiosk person you don't owe them anything, right? Whatsoever.
It's all money.
And your money is something that you've earned.
Yeah.
So setting healthy boundaries around money and your time, because it's going to take time to make the sale.
Oh yeah.
Even if it's a puppy calendar.
Even then.
Yeah.
Like
Your time is very valuable, and so is your money that you've worked really hard to do. So setting these boundaries is really the key and the best tip that somebody can give a helper.
Yeah.
But as a friend of a helper, helping you set those boundaries or keep those boundaries is really important.
Yeah, that's your version of being the helper too. And my face is all hot right now talking about this.
So is that because you're starting to get into the greatness of what your personality type is like? And like the shadow side, sometimes we don't want to go to the light because fear of...
I'm not going to cry or anything.
No. Definitely not. I was kind of...
For sure not.
So it's kind of like a fear of actually reaching your true potential.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. Something is in both of my eyes right now.
Take your time.
No, and that's been something I have recently started to step into, more so unapologetically. And I did that by way of creating a private Instagram account where I can share shameless selfies if I'm feeling good about myself, or I can share shitty food photos, or like just things that other people feel like they can freely just share. It's taken me a long time. I deleted my Facebook 3 years ago. It's hard to find pictures of me on social media, and I just started thinking, well, I'm not really sure how to approach that with the thinking, but more so it's just been recognizing the things that I have going for me and the opportunities that I've created for myself that a lot of people don't have and won't do in their lives. And a lot of that is being mobile and traveling and saying yes to things. I started reading that book, Year of Yes. I got the gist in the first chapter, so I stopped reading it. But I should probably continue it. But it's very similar to just saying yes to the things that'll really benefit you, and a lot of that is saying yes to yourself. And I haven't said yes to myself in a long time, so I feel like it's a really good season of life for that, and I'm excited, but it's equally very intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Because people can tell you how highly they think of you, but if you start to feel it yourself, it kind of shakes your whole world, and you have to really start to understand where they're coming from, and that they're not just being nice, and nobody's paying them to say these things to you. They're saying it out of their kindness and what they actually think of you. So,
That was well said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I blacked out. I don't even know what I said. Can't wait to listen back to this.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, because I know how hard it is. One of the great things about a helper is that they love unconditionally. And sometimes they can love with the intention of getting love in return.
Yeah.
So at this season in your life, at this point in your life, would you think of it as something very hard to do to love yourself first in order to get love from somebody else?
I don't think so, and I can only say that now. I could have never said that before, but I'm genuinely excited for the next person who dates me, because this is the best version I've been. This is the version of myself that gives myself attention and is health conscious for the first time, and just more mindful. And it would be really great to find a partner who feels the same about themselves. I don't want a fixer. I don't want a project. I would like to be independently happy and healthy and decide to be with somebody, not need to be with them in any capacity, but to genuinely want to spend time with them. And maybe this guy is the first step on that mentality, because I started immediately tallying up all the things that I couldn't be for him. But I am so much for myself that it doesn't matter if I can't hike a damn 14er. Like, I mean,
That's not for
maybe
everybody,
someday.
for sure. Yeah.
I don't think it's for me, but I could barely do the steps at Red Rocks without dying, but well, that was dramatic. It was fine.
You did pregame a little bit in the parking lot,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
So the alcohol kind of...
I was also wearing really tight pants, and that's restrictive. It's not great. I did not set myself up for success. I also told him ahead of time that it was going to rain and he should prepare, and then I didn't prepare. But I wanted him to be okay. But anyway, it's probably a good sign that I'm recognizing this, even just right now in this moment, saying maybe it's good that we have different interests and we can be two independent people who decide to hang out and we can share some things, but you don't need to share everything all the time. It doesn't make a difference if you're happy with yourself.
That's incredible.
It sounds great. Now it's putting it into practice is the tough part.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe an hour and a half difference from Denver to Vail is the best thing for you, that it's not entirely long distance.
Yeah.
But it's also not so far away that you can't make the trek in a day.
True.
For a weekend.
Well, and he's here all the time for work. I'm saying this like there is a huge connection. It's simmering right now. It's nothing. I'm a pretty quick person when it comes to that kind of a thing. Physically, emotionally, really anything. I'm quick to jump in. And I'm enjoying this span of singledom because I've had some where I've jumped right in for the first date or two, and then I've been feeling kind of empty. And it was a good lesson to learn. It was something that I don't need to repeat. So I think I've basically covered the entire spectrum, and this week I deleted apps, and I am just gonna kind of hand this over to the universe. Whatever happens, it would be great to meet somebody organically in person instead of an app, but that's just not necessarily realistic for a lot of people's lives. They have to seek it out, but I don't know. I'm kind of, I'm game for whatever happens next, and I'm liking every single lesson I've learned. Even packing myself solid in the first week was great, because every single person was very different.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's definitely good to know that that by deleting the apps, you're setting a new boundary. You're setting yourself as a priority first.
Yeah.
And then you're basically kind of going with the flow and no longer trying to control anything whatsoever, which then takes out any type of manipulation, which is kind of underneath the surface of the old.
Yeah.
Kayla?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So if you're letting go of control, which is something that I can relate to a lot as the challenger, is when I let go of control, everything blossoms for me.
Yeah, that is exactly what I need to do. I will still guarantee that I have days where I'm sobbing in my car saying I'm gonna die alone. That just comes along with being somebody who cares deeply and has a lot of love to give, but no particular person to give that to at the time. It's very frustrating. But it's building. I'm working on a little project to help some twos and some other people with manifesting their person. I don't want to say it because it's a great idea, but
there's the achiever in you too, the type 2 wing 3 that's
exactly
like, I've got an idea and it's all based around helping other people.
Yes, and nobody can steal it, please. But yeah,
well, let me know how I
I'll be
can
willing
help.
to share. I would love to share that with you. I think a lot of your clients would benefit in the coming months when it comes into fruition. So.
Well, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, which Instagram account is the best way to get a hold of you? Because I know we stayed connected through Kayla Coleman, which is your wedding photography Instagram. That's
the one. I share some mental health things on there and some personal, and you'll see an occasional Enneagram 2 pop up in the story. But that's the place to start.
Yep.
50 Shoots, 50 States is a good one because it's going to continue. It's just not as frequent as it used to be. So.
The Daily Sade, that's the puppy.
Daily Sade for Sadie.
You
see Sadie Mae, her little southern name.
Well, I've enjoyed following you on Kayla Coleman, and that's how we stayed in contact when I knew that you were long distance, and I know that I'm not capable of doing long distance for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, we should talk about why we matched.
What do you mean?
I don't know. What made you I was clear that I didn't live here. What made you go for it anyway?
So you had mentioned that you'd be in town maybe 10 days after that.
Yeah.
And 10 days for me is like at the end of my quality time window. Like
patience, yeah.
No, it's not about patience. It's literally about combining the love languages with proximity. So like if I don't live near somebody and my love bank, because quality time and physical touch are my top two, the ways that I feel love, my love bank definitely starts to kind of dwindle and empty out around 7 to 10 days.
That makes sense.
And that's not me being needy at all.
No.
Those are what I've identified as my needs in a relationship.
That's fair.
So I knew right away that you were a quality person because you said I look like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And that you were into fantasy football. How many times have you won fantasy football championship?
Oh, there's this whole thing. I won with a losing record at my old 9-to-5 job.
Because you peaked at the playoffs and you just went straight
I'm not
to...
sure how I squeaked into the playoffs in the first place, but I won with a losing record, and it's a actual...
like,
it's some
that's a
people
huge
still
feat.
talk about it. Yeah.
So you came at me with like some kind of a commonality where we were both interested in football and you knew your stuff and you made the fantasy football joke and then you told me I look like Aaron Rodgers, which is only the second time I've ever heard that.
Oh, you should hear that more often.
Is it a compliment?
Yes.
Okay.
Highly recommend. Half my seasons of fantasy have been named Roger That is my team name, and he's helped me out. Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is the man. So as like you said, sticking it out, for me, my intentions are pretty clear.
Yeah.
It's my boundaries that definitely either push away the people that aren't supposed to be in my life, and that's intentional because it's based on my intentions, or my boundaries actually help people gravitate to me because they respect it, or they're like, oh, I can totally relate to that boundary.
That makes sense.
And from an 8 paired with a 2, because as I was following your Instagram over the next 6 months,
has it been that long?
Yeah, I think we matched in April or May or something like that when you were traveling in the spring.
Yeah.
So I saw you posting about the Enneagram 2 in your Instagram stories, and I'm like, now we have another something else to keep us.
True.
Basically our commonality.
Yeah.
Common language is what the Enneagram does for friends, coworkers, partners, lovers,
That makes sense.
husband and wife.
Yeah.
So I knew that we were able to be friends once you were back in town.
Yeah. Thanks for tapping into that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I want to thank you for your time. If there's anything else that we didn't touch on today that you want to leave our audience with, whether it's about yourself as the 2 or why you love photography so much, or what's up next on the agenda for you?
What's up next is, well, I already relocated here, but really building the client base in Denver, hitting hard with some family shoots and some weddings and tapping into the beautiful scenery that we have here. Personally, follow along with Kayla Coleslaw. You might see some more personal things coming up there soon. And other than that, just adjusting to the new norm, creating a new home. But I really appreciate you having me on. This
was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you too. So I promise to help you establish and maintain your healthy boundaries.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
of course.
it.